The dust is settled on Browns free agency. Odell Beckham Jr. is now a Cleveland Brown, and somehow John Dorsey is more beloved than he was at the end of the Browns last season. Drew, what do you think has been more exciting news? OBJ getting traded to the Browns, or was it LeBron's return?
Yeah, it's a good question because the key word there is exciting, right? Like with LeBron, he was a free agent, and there was always some hint, an idea. You knew he was considering coming back home to play. It was something that he was interested in doing. They had the team set up pretty well. They had essentially refused to even play a small forward for the 4 years he was gone, just to keep his starting spot open for him. So there was always some thought that he might come back. Whereas with Odell Beckham Jr., it hit out of nowhere. It like the lights went down, and all of a sudden it was glorious. No, I won't give in. I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend until the end. Bobby Roode, thank you. There's one for you keeping track at home of the pro wrestling references. I'll give you the first one right off the bat. So I think the Odell Beckham stuff was way more exciting because you had heard some idea that, hey, Odell Beckham might like to play with the guys he works out with in the offseason, which is Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry. And it's something that he wanted, but there was no real indication that this was going to happen. And then the Browns and Giants, they agreed to a trade that wasn't Odell Beckham related. The Browns traded a piece that the Giants really wanted in Kevin Zeitler. And you figured that was the end of the discussion, that was it. This wasn't going to happen. And then when that news popped out of nowhere, I think that was extremely exciting. So I think that was more exciting. Obviously, LeBron James coming back, they're the greatest of all time. I'm not willing to put Odell Beckham Jr. into that stratosphere just yet. But I think he can have an impact that is close to what LeBron had on the whole franchise, just on the offense for the Browns. So both incredible moves, and you won't forget where you were when you heard about them.
Yeah, I agree with you on the roller coaster ride. It was like a good wrestling match. They gave us a false finish on is the trade going to occur, and then boom, out of nowhere, coming to the Browns.
Out of nowhere.
Eric, what do you think was more exciting?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The rumors and the video of Dave Gettleman and John Dorsey talking to each other at the Combine last month, there was blah, 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 blah. And then we had the people on Twitter saying, oh, it was about Olivier Vernon. Oh, that trade went down. Oh, big deal, which was a big deal. He's a great player. I'm glad they made that trade. Stinks we lost Kevin Zeitler, and then bam, the guy Odell Beckham as a result as well. But to answer your question, NFL, it's number one to me. I love LeBron. I love him bringing a championship to Cleveland. I was still a little irritated that he left to begin with. So when he came back, I was a little arm's length than I was 2006, 2007 when they were going for their first runs. So it was kind of hey, win the championship, and I'll give you that respect, give you that love back that I kind of lost for you 4 years ago when you were leaving for Miami. And like Drew said, it's Odell was just kind of out of nowhere. There were rumors, but there are rumors every year for different people coming and going. So the fact that he's coming here to play with all these tremendous players that just came out of, look at this roster 2 years ago to now. It's incredible. I would definitely, LeBron was awesome, but Odell, I think, is really gonna help this franchise going forward.
Just so much positivity working out during the summers. You think, OBJ's probably worked with Baker in the past, caught passes from him in the past as well. But there is a little bit of negativity that's attached to Odell. He had the interview with Lil Wayne last year and Josina Anderson. That was a little, brought some questions as to, was this the right thing to do?
Whenever you interview with Lil Wayne, there's a question of was this the right thing to do? So yeah.
Hey, props to Josina to create an environment to get Odell to actually talk, because it was it's tough to have guys actually come out and talk during the season. Antonio Brown didn't talk during the season. He'd said all these crazy things after the season. And but I don't know, are you guys worried at all about the trouble, or it's just clear skies? Drew, what do you think?
Clear skies for me. I am not worried at all. I'm wearing the jersey of the last guy that the last receiver that was special. We only got to see him for a little bit, but Odell Beckham, when they traded for him, he gave rise to this whole like Browns fan ID hashtag, where you had to have an ID to say that you were a fan before the bandwagon. And I'm not worried that Odell Beckham is going to have any sort of passion. Like that's what this team is sort of built on. That's who their quarterback is. That's who Jarvis Landry, who was really responsible for, in my mind, for helping to change the culture to what it is. And that is the culture now of the Cleveland Browns. It is, these guys play with this burning passion for the game, and they don't hide it. Right. There's no, toss the ball to the referee and go shake their hands. That's not who this team is, right? Like, if you're one of these old school fans that's the type of football that you want to see, then you should think about maybe tuning into a different game, because that is who the Browns used to be. They would lose respectfully, and this is the polar opposite of every one of those teams. And I think Odell Beckham is going to fit right in with what this culture is trying to be. And I'm really looking forward to what that looks like. I have no concerns about Odell Beckham, because I think that the Cleveland Browns are going to be a success. There might be some times when he is displeased with losing, but I promise you he's not more displeased than the quarterback is. And I don't care if somebody throws a hissy fit on the sideline. I just don't, right? Like, people will make that out to be a bigger deal than it is. But am I worried about the fit, about the culture? And I'm not. I think this is the culture of the Cleveland Browns, to play with passion, to wear the heart on the sleeve, and hopefully to win a whole bunch of games doing it.
Yeah, Beckham's going to be a great receiver, and this is a stat that I haven't even looked up, but I did hear that Beckham has twice the Instagram followers as Tom Brady. So my guess here, I'm willing to bet $1 that this trade includes the player with the most Instagram followers in the history of the NFL, and the Browns have pulled that off.
Wow. Probably a pretty good bet.
There's a big dollar out there to prove me wrong. But Eric, what do you think about Olivier Vernon? And just, are you afraid of, or do you dislike losing that first round pick? Does it all just make sense to lose that first round pick?
Yeah, it's a bummer losing the first round pick. But if I could touch back on what Drew had said, is I like what Odell brings and what Baker brings is so awesome that we have not seen in 15, 20, 30 years. I think about the Browns-Bengals game when Baker was running the ball, got hit out of bounds by one of their defensive end, and Jarvis Landry, Carlos Dunlap, and two guys. It was a Jarvis Landry, and somebody else came up to him, wanted to almost throw fisticuffs to defend their boy. That's awesome. Like that is what I love to see. And then I watch Odell. We traded for Odell. I watch a couple of highlights. You see they played the Eagles maybe last year, 2 years ago. He got body slammed. 2 plays later, he catches the ball and just starts just dancing every single time, to flaunt it in their faces. I love that. We haven't seen that in forever, and now that we actually have the talent, we can actually see that. It's awesome.
I didn't think Carlos Dunlap was going to leave the stadium that day. Yeah. I thought that might be the last time that you saw Carlos Dunlap.
Right, but that's who the Browns are becoming, and that's great. We can actually have bona fide players that can bring that atmosphere, intensity, passion towards
make other fans angry.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I went to Ohio State. I love Ohio State. Other schools hate us, and that's great. I want the Browns to be hated. We're going to get there. I'm hoping it's this year, but soon. But to answer your question, yeah, like I said, it's a bummer, with the trade for the Giants. It's a bummer we're losing draft picks, but I don't know if these draft picks that are available are going to be better than Olivier Vernon and Odell Beckham Jr. And looking back at the Cavs, what they had done is trading future draft picks for, Kevin Love and this and that. If we win a Super Bowl, I don't care. You trade 5 number 1 draft picks. I don't care. Just win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, whether that's this year, next year, or the year after. So the other thing is the Browns still have 8 draft picks. Granted, they have the first one's not till pick number 49. It's not very early, but you still have 8 draft picks. We have a lot of capital. We can still fortify our outside linebacker, strong safety, whatever position that we're missing.
If you look at that lost pick, even if we get a player like DK Metcalf or anyone in the wide receivers that have been rumored as one of the top picks, you're taking Odell Beckham Jr. As much as DK Metcalf is a stud in the weight room and in the 40, you're taking Odell Beckham Jr. and not worrying about it.
Right. Absolutely.
22 versus 26. One guy's 22 and you don't know who he is. The other guy's 26 and he's Odell Beckham Jr.
All right, so everyone's been focused on Odell. People have been talking Olivier Vernon, a great person opposite of Myles Garrett, another edge rusher. I think he was ranked just behind Garrett as from Pro Football Focus when it comes to edge rushing. So 2 great pieces. But who else do you guys think have been some great free agent pickups that the Browns have made? Eric, let's go to you first here.
Well, it kind of went by the wayside because it was the same day as Odell Beckham, but I really like Sheldon Richardson as a pickup for the Browns. He's going to be either the 1 or 3 technique with defensive tackle to be playing opposite Larry Ogunjobi. The Browns got pushed around a lot on the defensive side, whether it was against the run or the pass. Looking at highlights last year, watching that Denver game, Philip Lindsay was just having his way with the Browns. Undrafted rookie, you can't be doing that. And he was a first-round draft pick by the Jets 5-6 years ago. And what I really like about Sheldon Richardson, it forces another team to attack us a different way. You look at Olivier Vernon, you look at Myles Garrett, you finally cannot attack one side or the other. And finally, I think we can do the same thing with the inside, where you can't just go against opposite Larry Ogunjobi. You have to figure out a different way that you can attack the Browns defense. I'm hoping, he stays healthy and he's able to, give a good push, whether against the run or the pass. And, he's got a 3-year contract and I believe $39 million guaranteed. So that's starter's money. And I expect some productive play out of him. And I'm hoping that the Browns can fill the backup pretty solidly. Trevon Coley had his moments, but I'm hoping the Browns can draft a middle round draft pick to get his backup for this year. But right now, I'd say Sheldon Richardson. I do like Darius Taylor as well. I think he's going to be more a special teamer, but, he did fill in for Quan Alexander when he was injured last year, ironically against the Browns for the remainder of the season last year. But, the Browns are going to need another linebacker now that we got Jamie Collins departed. So if he's the guy, great. If not, if we have to draft him, that those things happen, but that's the way things go. But the last guy I will say is Ray Armstrong. You have a linebacker with 1 Ray, you're going the Hall of Famer. 2 Rays, I can't even think about how awesome that's going to be for the Cleveland Browns.
Simple math. Simple math. Yeah. He's only had He's had 144 tackles and 3 interceptions in 6 years. So
probably not going to have a tremendous amount of stats. But hey, if he's the guy who can somehow be the starting strong Sam linebacker for the Browns, great.
So last week we had the two Devons. This week we've got double Ray.
Double Ray.
A subtle wrestling reference there. Drew,
Yeah.
let's get away from Ray here. Who have you been looking at under the radar? Who else has been signed?
I'm glad you told him, man. It would have never come up with Bubba Ray if you didn't tell him it, man.
Double Ray.
That's
it's a
4.
double J reference.
Oh, well, that's fine. I thought you tried to do the
Double J,
pun.
Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, okay.
Man, all I can think about is Jeff Jarrett right now. So the Sheldon Richardson, he was a big time addition, right? He's going to be the 3 technique defensive tackle that they've been missing for quite some time. Danny Shelton couldn't do that because he wasn't a 3 technique. He was a 1 technique guy that sort of was there to clog lanes and get in the way, and all he did was jump on piles late. And that's been the most recent sort of big name investment that they've made at that position. Larry Ogunjobi happened to turn out awfully well for them. That was a nice surprise, but that's not a major investment made at defensive tackle. And Sheldon Richardson certainly was. He's getting a lot of money. He's going to make $12 or $13 million this year. So, if he qualifies under the radar, it's a gigantic man with a lot of money, and I don't think he's ever been under the radar. But I will say the signing that is intriguing to me is Demetrius Harris. They need a second tight end that can both get open and stay healthy. They had Seth DeValve, who is incapable of staying healthy. And they had, players that like Darren Fells that couldn't really get open. And so to add somebody that can get open and that has stayed healthy, I find that intriguing. I think that Freddie Kitchens can do a lot of creative things with David Njoku if he has a reliable tight end that can block and that can run, which Demetrius Harris can do. The question is, what are you going to get in the passing game when he's open? The Chiefs fans called him Incompletrius Harris because he would be open and he would drop it. Mm-hmm. And we've seen some of that in the past, not necessarily from the tight end position, but from other positions here in Cleveland, and that is
Braylon
just
Edwards.
devastating. Okay. Exactly, yeah. Right. When somebody's open and they just can't hang on to it. So I'm very intrigued by Demetrius Harris. I hope he can sort of shed the Incompletrius Harris nickname. If not, it's a minimal investment at a position that they needed some help. And it allows them to do a whole bunch of different things in that second and third round now, instead of being sort of pigeoned into trying to find a number 2 tight end.
Yeah, it's the same question on Twitter. And who is the top under the radar Browns signing in free agency? Darius Taylor, Eric Kush, guard, used to play for the Bears, right tackle Kendall Lamb, as well as Demetrius Harris. And Demetrius Harris was the leading vote getter, 44%. Get in on the next poll at Spawny on Twitter. You check that out.
Smart fans you got, man. Some smart fans for the I Still Believe in Cleveland podcast.
Everyone agreeing with Drew. I like it.
So my guy wasn't an option. So.
Yeah, you're cheating a little bit.
Under the radar, cheater.
All right, so we lost Orson Charles. We get Demetrius Harris with sort of a 1-for-1 tight end swap, but there have been some losses that the Browns have gone through, and maybe that's going to equate to what we pick up in the draft this year. Drew, we don't have a first-round pick, but what positions do you think are our top priorities in this upcoming draft?
Yeah, for me, the biggest need right now, if we were playing a game tomorrow, would be outside linebacker. I don't see somebody that I'm comfortable starting right now. It would be Jannard Avery, who had some good moments as a pass rusher last year, but that's who he is. He is a collegiate defensive end who can play linebacker. He's athletic enough to do it, but I think it's asking a lot right now for him to be the outside linebacker, and there is absolutely zero depth beyond that. There is nobody else on this roster that I would feel comfortable putting into a linebacker spot. So they need a lot of help at that position. even if Avery is ready to start, they need somebody who can back up those guys. Linebackers get hurt every year. There's 3 of them. They make hundreds of tackles combined. They're going to get hurt, and you're going to need somebody to play there. So that's the biggest area of need for me. If I was looking at it, I would look at linebacker, and I think the second choice is offensive tackle. Those guys played great in the last 8 games of 2018, but I think part of that might have been that the people they were going up against weren't the greatest pass rushers in the world, and I don't know if those 2 tackles, Hubbard and the guy that they recently re-signed, Robinson, thank you, if they're going to hold up for the whole season. I think that it was what they did was great. I think Freddie Kitchens did a lot to help them and to keep Baker Mayfield clean. But I am worried about them both this season and long term. I would like to see an offensive tackle. So if we address one of those 2 positions, I would be very happy with our first pick in the second round.
Eric, where do you think we're going to add some depth in this draft?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Drew. My first need is outside linebacker. Jannard Avery, has had his moments, but every single play, every single game, that's a lot to ask from a 5th round draft pick on his second season. So, can I think he can help the team? Great, yes, but we need another guy that can, fortify that second level of the defense. The next level would be the strong safety. After trading Jabril Peppers away, we have Derek Kindred, who's been okay, but he's also been injured. So, outside of Demarius Randall, I don't know who they're going to put in there that's going to be a physical, tenacious, strong safety. I'm hoping, Brian Body Calhoun, he was okay. He's gone. I don't know. They definitely have to address that situation. As far as offensive linemen go, yeah, I'd like to see them do what they did with Corbett last year and draft a guy somewhat early to groom him, maybe not even play this year, but groom him to be a starter next year. I'm guessing that's going to be a tackle. If Corbett stays the way he is at a guard, that's fine. Then you got to get a tackle, whether it's left or right, and do that next year. And last but not least is you want to take up too much of your money or cap room or early draft picks, but we need a consistent, reliable kicker. Greg Joseph, he made a lot of field goals, but he missed how many extra points? Cannot make those 33-yard extra points. That is so frustrating.
That is.
And, when you actually have a good team, yeah, those are really important kicks. When you're down by 3 touchdowns, yeah, if you miss an extra point, who cares? But, when you're playing the Steelers or the Ravens and you got to make the extra point to win the game to be a game ahead in the division, yeah, that's pretty important. So, yeah, those are the 4 main spots, I guess I would say.
It's going to be not as exciting as long as we don't trade back into the first round. So maybe we'll just watch this. The draft is always pretty fun. So
yeah, but
I think we'll still watch, right?
I'm not going to know what to do with my hands, right? Like it's a totally different scenario, man. Like not only do we not have like 2 or 3 first-round picks, we don't even have one.
Right. Hey, as long as those quarterbacks keep getting pushed up, that's all I care about. Keep pushing those quarterbacks up early. Drew Lock, the guy from Duke. Yeah, keep pushing those guys up. That's going to push all those other non-quarterbacks down to help us out. Pick number 49, provided we don't trade up.
Following off this Browns free agency period, a little bit of early March Madness, we're into the second portion of March Madness for Cleveland fans, and that is the NCAA Tournament. I saw that Ohio State made it in. But it's going to take multiple perspectives for a Cleveland fan this year. I think you've got prospective Cavaliers. That could be one source of joy in watching the games. It could be your picks. That's certainly going to be a lot of people's primary focus for the NCAA tournament. Or it could just be the fun of watching the games, the madness, seeing the upsets. Eric, let's go to you first here. Which part are you most looking forward to?
Well, I know this is a given and completely obvious, but the NCAA is not nearly on the same level as the NBA. So that being said, I like seeing the talented guys play. I don't care who it's for. I like just seeing talented guys play, and Duke is one of them. And likely the Brown or I've still got the Browns on my mind. The Cavs will get one of those guys. So I'm kind of watching who's going to be on the Cavs roster, and I like watching. The year Kentucky had Anthony Davis. I rooted against him, but I still watched him, and you know, so kind of just seeing that excitement and seeing what the Cavs can do with potentially one of those three guys. Looking at their standings as we are still doing, because there's 10 games, 10, 11 games left. They're still third worst record, so that's good. They're a half a game better than the second worst team, so the odds are still likely that we're going to be getting one of those Duke guys. And I still have my alma mater, Ohio State, but they're probably going to lose in the first round like they usually do in the last couple of years. But at this point I don't care, as long as it's not Michigan winning the championship. That's great. I just want to see great people perform. I don't want to see 48-47 finals. I would rather see 82-81. I know the game's shorter than an NBA. You got the 8 minutes shorter, but just great 3-point shots, great making your free throws, and playing good defense, and seeing whatever Zion Williamson or somebody even half of his ability can do would be awesome.
Yeah, if you look at mock drafts, about the 10 top prospects are all going to be playing in the NCAA tournament. So there's certainly going to be, if you find, it's a lot of the usual suspects: Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Maryland, even Ja Morant out of Murray State is a big prospect. But Drew, which one are you going to be watching the tournament for?
Yeah, I'm a big draft guy, but for the tournament, I always sort of take the draft hat off, and I watch to follow along with the bracket. It's I don't worry about which guy might drop to the Cavs spots. It's never something I've really concerned myself with, because it's not something that I get into at that time when I'm watching those games. I have one bracket with my friends that we do for for a little bit of money and for bragging rights, and then I have the bracket with my wife's family where I try not to finish in last, and that's why I watch. I always do game theory in the latter one. I pick Michigan and Michigan State to lose, and they never lose. If that ever happens, I'm going to win this thing. Just note to everybody out there that's listening, I'm coming for you. But that's why I watch. You have your bracket with you. You have your green and your red highlighters. You mark the thing up, and then when you pick your team to go to the Final Four and they lose on Friday or Saturday or something, you throw it away and you're done. But that's why I watch. I think that's why most of the country watches.
The other thing that's heating up is the Indians. They're going to be finishing up spring training here pretty soon, cutting down to have a 25-man roster. One of the things that made sort of big news on Indians Twitter was Indians CEO Paul Dolan speaking out about the upcoming season and talking about a lot of things, but the thing that a lot of people were focused on and a lot of vitriol was focused towards was his comment about how the Indians needed to cut their roster to make a profit, that it was actually becoming growingly more difficult for the Indians to make a profit on a year-by-year basis, which, there's a lot of money that the Indians are making. The Indians don't have the largest payroll. Drew, what do you think? Do you think it's the Indians who are at fault for this, or do you think this is a bigger problem for Major League Baseball?
I think it's a bigger problem for Major League Baseball. But I don't know that baseball agrees with me, right? I think baseball likes the idea that you end up with these 10 or 12 franchises that that can afford to spend big, and those are the franchises that people watch, that get put onto Sunday Night Baseball every week, and those are the ones that get the national games. Those are the ones that have the big fan bases, and I don't know that Major League Baseball views it as a problem. I certainly do. I think there ought to be certainly at least TV revenue sharing. When you have clubs that are making their own TV deals worth, $150 million a year, $200 million a year, that's a lot different than clubs that that have their own TV deal that make 20 million a year. And so I don't think it should be full revenue sharing like the NFL and the NBA have. It's too big to ask that, but I think a decent solution to this problem would be that that you could have some type of revenue sharing for the TV deals. A certain percentage of that is luxury taxed and spread to the other clubs, something along those lines. I don't think you're going to get a salary cap. It's not going to happen. The union's never going to agree to that. A bunch of owners don't want it. So that's never going to happen. But I think if they had some type of revenue sharing, that you wouldn't hear this excuse that we can't make a profit when the payroll is only $75 million. I have a hard time with that when clubs are spending, triple that, and you don't hear them crying about it, right? So there's plenty of blame to go around. I don't mean to carry the banner here for the Dolans. I just, I don't love them as owners, but I think they do a pretty good job in terms of knowing when to move on from a player, and when to try to find a free agent to sign. So if you could get some type of revenue sharing, I think that baseball will be much more competitive, but I don't know that Major League Baseball wants that.
Yeah, baseball's had some examples of teams that have spent less, much less than the Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, and they've actually won the World Series. So they do sort of hide behind those examples, whether or not they should be completely valid or not. Eric, what do you think on the Indians? Do they have are they playing a fair game as well as some other teams throughout Major League Baseball?
No, I would say they're not. And unfortunately, I have been agreeing with Drew a lot more than I would have expected in many of these podcasts. But I'm looking at it as it's 162 games. That is so many games. I get it. That's how it's been forever and ever. Babe Ruth played at 144. That was like a big deal because he had 60 home runs, and the Roger Maris. Okay, 162. That's a ton of games. Think about a Tuesday game in May against the Kansas City Royals. How many people are going to be going to Cleveland to watch that? What are your ticket sales going to be? I mean, you're not getting that revenue. You think about the NFL. It's one game a week. It's Sunday. You know exactly when it's at. Actually, this year's going to be a little different. It's not going to be Sunday at 1:00 this year, but
good.
For many years in the past, it's Sunday 1:00. It's right there. You know it. There's just so many games. I mean, people have lives, people have jobs. We love the Indians, but we got other things to do. So that's so much revenue that they're losing out on. I understand they have their season ticket holders, but there's not that much season ticket holders to go around to give them enough revenue.
So I'll counter that. I'll counter that with a old pro wrestling adage here that when you have a main event and the main event does poorly, the promoter will claim, oh, it was in comparison with a football game that was going on. Oh, the weather was bad. Oh, there was a lot of traffic that night. But the real story on how to draw people into these matches or even television events is people care about it. People
have a bad guy, man. Come on, to have a bad guy.
And that's what we're talking before the podcast here is that it's going to be tough to get Browns tickets because they've got some superstar players, but the Indians have superstar players too.
Right. I mean, you look at the last couple of years, they had free agent signings of Edwin Encarnacion, Jay Bruce, Josh Donaldson. All of them are gone. And when they were here, they allegedly, I mean, I don't know this, but this is what the Dolans are saying, is that attendance and money wasn't that much better when they were here. as against her previously in 2016 when they made it to the World Series. So whether that's the case or not, I don't know. But I don't know. It just seems really difficult for the Dolans to do something.
And then going to our final promo, making the jump here, the Browns are also going to have an incredible set of skill players. And there's been some talk around, do they actually have the best group of skill players in the NFL? That's our final promo. Eric, we're going to start off with you this week. Our Browns, number 1, going to the Super Bowl here.
Baker, OBJ, Landry, Chubb, Callaway, and Njoku, Hunt after 8 games. Those are just some of the names that you on your offense for these Cleveland Browns this year. Yes, they are the best. I don't know how you could disagree with that. They are so good. They are going to be scoring from all which way. You want an 80-yard touchdown? We got there, Odell. We want some under route throws. We also have Nick Chubb who can run through guys. That's awesome. We are going to do it. We got the guys. The Browns. Best guy going for it.
How do you follow that, right?
Yeah. You can't disagree with that. You can only add to it, Drew. Can you please add to that?
I can't talk about Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. All right, fine. Let me add to it. Demetrius Harris and Hollywood Higgins and Red carpet walk when he scores a touchdown, and Sawyer's boy Ricardo Lewis, who's somehow on the team still. How can you disagree with it? Duke Johnson.
Exactly.
I like it. Okay, so no disagreement. The Browns do have the best skill set of players. They are on the way to the Super Bowl. They're only going to get better through the draft, and that's pretty much the bottom line. So it's not exactly. It's not exactly.
Disagree.
It's not 316 day, but
316 day was yesterday.
That's the bottom line.
We're one day late on that, but that's the bottom line. Let's get out of here. Good talking to you guys, and go Cavs, go Browns, go Indians. More news to come, and we'll talk to you next week.